Greetings and salutations, my dear audience. This is Joe St. Egg Benedictus, just coming at you with a video. I want to give a shout out to my pal Mike and to all the mystics and visionaries out there, or visionaries and mystics. I don't know. I haven't done a video in so long that I forgot how to introduce my own videos. Some time ago, it was actually a while ago, I mentioned to you that I have been using a Revised Standard Version instead of the Revised English Bible for my daily office. I began the year with the Revised English Bible, and let me see if we can get some light here. Hold on. Oh, geez. Oh, there we go. I mentioned to you I started the year with the Revised English Bible and then switched because I just, for some reason, could not get into the Revised English Bible. Now, when I mentioned that in passing, I got a few comments in which people said, why did you not like the Revised English Bible? So, I had to go back, use the Bible for the daily office from that time to remember why I didn't really care for it. And even though it's such a beautiful Bible, I mean, you know, these are common, but look at those cool ribbons I did. Anyway, so it is a neat Bible, and I really do love the layout. But I think, and the stickers, I think one of the reasons why, or the main reason why I had trouble with the Revised English Bible is because it uses really clunky language. The language, for some reason, is just clunky. So I have a few examples, and we'll just go through them. Okay, let's see. Acts 11:5. Acts 11, verse 5. And it's really, some sentences are in passive order rather than active. Now, some of that's required because there are sentences in the Bible that are passive, in the passive tense rather than the active tense, because it is God who's doing the action and humans or people or circumstances that are receiving the action. But in these cases, there were passive tenses where there didn't need to be. All right. Acts 11:5. Let's see. I was at prayer in the city of Joppa, he said, and while in a trance I had a vision. I saw something coming down that looked like a great sheet of sailcloth, slung by the four corners and lowered from heaven till it reached me. So in this case, it really has to just do with language. A great sheet of sailcloth. Is there a better way to say that? Like a sail coming down looked like a sail? I mean, that's a lot of words. All right, let's see. And then 18, verse 18. When they heard this, their doubts were silenced. So there's in the passive tense, when they heard this, their doubts were silenced, and they gave praise to God. This means they said that God has granted life-giving repentance to the Gentiles also. So there's again, kind of a, just clunky sentence order. When they heard this, their doubts were silenced. I'm trying to think. What does the RSV say? That's Acts 11, 18. Let's see what the RSV says. Acts 11:18. All right, let's see here. All right, Acts 11:18 says, when they heard this, they were silenced. There it is. And they glorified God. So very simple. When they heard this, they were silenced and they glorified God. So very simple, concise language. All right, next is Daniel 2:5. Daniel 2:5. And one of the things about, I have a note here, Daniel 2:5, is to compare with the RSV. So I'm definitely going to do some comparisons here. Daniel 2:5. All right, Daniel 2:5 says, the king answered, "This is my firm decision. If you do not make both dream and interpretation known to me, you will be hacked limb from limb, and your houses will be reduced to rubble." All right, so that's Daniel 2. Daniel 2:15. All right, wrong thing. So I'll have to edit it out. Daniel 2:15. He said, "May I ask you, sir, as the king's representative, why his majesty has issued so peremptory a decree?" Arioch explained the matter. So, okay, peremptory. "May I ask you, sir, as the king's representative, why his majesty has issued so peremptory a decree?" All right, supposed to compare that to the RSV. All right, the RSV says, 2:15. Where are we? All right, 2:15 says, he said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree of the king so severe? All right, so, and then Arioch made the matter known to Daniel. All right, so if you count the words alone, 15, may I ask you, sir, as the king's representative, why his majesty has issued so peremptory a decree, versus why is the decree of the king so severe? So you see how the concise language versus the clunky language plays a part there. All right, Luke 12:17 is another example. I think this is where one of the sentences where it's written in the passive tense, or Luke 17. Let's see. I'm sorry, Luke 12:7. 12:7. All right, 12:7. More than that, even the hairs of your head have all been counted. Do not be afraid. You are worth more than any number of sparrows. More than that, even the hairs of your head have all been counted. Now that's fine, because it's passive, and it's the Lord who's doing the counting. But the original, or the version that you'll find in modern translation, is more than that, your hairs of the head are numbered. That's it. Are numbered. Instead of your head have all been counted. 1, 2, 3, 4 words. Other translations say are numbered, and that's it. So all the hairs in your head are numbered. So there's an example. Another example. Let's see, Luke 12:40. So hold yourselves in readiness. Hold yourselves in readiness. Let's see, if we look at the NRSV, Luke 12. Luke, I am your father. Luke 12:40. It says, you must be ready. That's it. So hold yourself in readiness, or you must be ready. So again, another example. All right. And then the other thing that is a big complaint for the Revised English Bible is that the gender inclusivity, or the gender accuracy of the text, is also inconsistent. Now, I don't know if I would have noticed this, but when I read about the Revised English Version, that was one of the criticisms that was given. Not that it was gender accurate, but that it's inconsistent. And I have a good example, Psalm 41 here, or at least an example I found. Psalm 41. Let's see, Psalm 41. Happy is anyone who has a concern for the helpless. The Lord will save him in the time of trouble. So this is where you get into, if you want to maintain the singular usage versus plural, like the NRSV goes plural, happy are they who have concern for the helpless, the Lord will save them, in order to stay away from the gender exclusive language. But you can see anyone to him makes it doesn't matter if you're inclusive in one part of the verse, the second part of the verse is exclusive. The Lord protects him and gives him life, making him secure in all the land. So although the translation tries to be gender accurate, it really is inconsistent in that respect. There are parts where I found it to be very beautiful, not necessarily clunky. I have Psalm 84 here. I wrote a note that it's actually really beautiful. So let's read Psalm 84 and end it on a positive note of the one place, or some places, where this translation really does do beautifully. Now you have to remember, this translation is intended primarily for public worship in the British or United Kingdom setting, not necessarily American churches. And so there are many parts of the Bible that read beautifully. Again, I would argue that a lot of it's clunky, but here's a beautiful an example of a beautiful text, Psalm 84. Lord of hosts, how dearly loved is your dwelling place. I pine and faint with longing for the courts of the Lord's temple. My whole being cries out with joy to the living God. Even the sparrow finds a home, and a swallow has her nest, where she rears her brood beside your altars. Lord of hosts, my King and God. Happy are those who dwell in your house. They never cease to praise you. Happy are those whose refuge is in you, whose hearts are set on the pilgrim ways as they pass through the waterless valley. The Lord fills it with springs, and the early rain covers it with pools, so they pass on from outer wall to inner, and the God of gods shows himself in Zion. All right, so, and then, of course, a very popular verse, verse 10, better one day in your courts than 1,000 days in my home. Better to linger by the threshold of God's house than to live in the dwellings of the wicked. So I thought that was really beautiful. Again, many times in this Bible, the language is clunky, but I think in the poetry, it really does work, regardless of some of the inconsistency. But, I mean, I only gave you some examples of the clunky language. It's, again, I spent a little time with it after people asked what was wrong with it, and you could probably tell where in the Christian Year or the Daily Office I was spending my time in, since a lot of my texts came from Luke primarily, and Daniel, and a little bit of Acts, according to the 1928 Daily Office. But when you're reading and you have that kind of clunky language, it gets burdensome, and actually it kind of wears down on you. I remember, being writing papers in school, trying to fix making sure all of my sentences were in the active tense to cut down number of words, trying to simplify, edit, and when I was a columnist and used to have to write 600-word articles once a week, or an article, 600-word column once a week, you had to be really concise. So when I'm reading this clunky language, what happens is it gets in the way of the scripture, and it's just distracting. And so that's one reason why I've given up using the Revised English Bible, although I do appreciate it. I appreciate what it's worth. But when it comes to beautiful language, I love the NRSV, as you know, but this RSV, and the RSV language, especially when it incorporates some of the rhythm of the King James, although it's a lot easier to understand than the King James, you just can't beat it. And given the choice between the two, I'm going to go with the RSV every time. Thank you so much for joining me, and hope you like, subscribe, and talk to you later.